friends, and welcome back to my podcast. This is Ann P. of Fiber, Floss, and Fiction. Today is Wednesday, July 24th. It is bright and early, so we've got tons of sunshine. Hopefully it won't wash things out too much, but welcome to everybody, new as well as returning visitors. I hope that you enjoy the podcast and have reason to come back and visit with me again. Things here are very good at the end of July. I've had a busy couple of weeks just keeping up with stuff outside and the gardening and work things, so all is good but very busy. I am heading out next week to teach at Stitches Midwest, which is outside of Chicago in Schaumburg, Illinois, and looking forward to that quite a bit. Always a fun show, so if you are planning on attending, please stop by the Yarn Guys booth. They actually have, I think it's 6 booths right in the center of the exhibit hall. My yarns will be there, as well as patterns, kits, and myself when I'm not teaching. I will not be there on Sunday. I have to fly back Sunday. I don't know, normally flights aren't that expensive in and out of Chicago because it's a hub, but it was the only day I could get a ticket that it wasn't just crazy expensive to do that, and I have to leave, like my flight is at like 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, which I'm not looking forward to, but you know, just part of the whole travel thing. Sometimes you have to do that. The flip side that's great is I'll be home by lunchtime Sunday afternoon, so it all evens out, I suppose. So gonna jump in today. I've got knitting to talk about, I've got books, and I've got cross stitching at the end. As always, there will be timestamps below so that you can skip through if there's a section that's not of interest to you and you just want to focus on something specific. So let's go ahead and get started with knitting. As you might guess, I have finished my beekeeper cardigan. This cute little design is by Olive Knits, and I worked it up in my one of the Woolly Wonka Fibers shop yarns called Atina. It's a DK weight that is 85% Polworth wool and 15% silk, and I absolutely love it. I knit this pattern exactly as it was written. I did not make any modifications to it because I wanted to kind of test it out and so be able to hopefully answer questions if other folks want to knit it as well, and I am glad to discuss tips and tricks and anything like that. If you have interest in knitting it like right away, please contact me. I'm always happy to answer questions about this or any other pattern, either through the box below with comments, or you can always contact me through my website, woollywonkafibers.com. There's a comments, contact us tab on that website, and you can click that and it will allow you to chit chat with me via email, not chat, I guess I should say. Anyway, this cardigan, it does not have any front closures. It is raglan sleeve construction, which you can see here, and it has this cute little baby bees pattern on it, which is a slip stitch pattern against a reverse stockinette background. No front closures, but you could add buttonholes if you wanted to button it. It's not really designed to be buttoned. It's basically designed to be worn open just over. I did keep the sleeve length a little bit short so I can wear it over a sundress, and it's perfect because it kind of covers this part of my arm, which if I get cold here, I get cold all over. Slightly scooped neckline. I think I used about 1,000 yards, just under 1,000 yards, to knit the second size up. Yeah, very pleased with it. I know I'm going to get a lot of use out of it. Like I said, when I had started it, I wasn't totally sure about the color, but I do have several sundresses that it will go over and go with, so I think it's going to be a great layering piece, and I like it with a little bit of silk. It keeps it soft and warm without being too heavy. So yeah, I have completed that, and it's always nice to have a finished knit, right? And another piece to go in your wardrobe. I have a gray dress. It's just plain like charcoal gray that I could see wearing this over to almost wear it as like a jacket in the cooler months. It's a long sleeve dress, but I think it would be fine with this. It's just pretty. It's just a basic sheath dress in charcoal. So that is done and that is on. Let's see, what am I going to talk about next? So I'm working on the last of my Celtic sweater collection. That is on the needles right now. It's a bigger project, but the good news is it's knit on fairly large needles and it's lace, so it is knitting up fairly quickly, but I will show you that next time. I do have a new sweater that will be released on August 1st for Lugnaso, which actually is a very similar color to this, although it's not my yarn. I will insert a link down below, which will go live when the pattern goes live in another week. I will add that in. I think I can do that. Otherwise, I'll just leave the pattern name there and I'll update the link once it goes live. And then I decided that I wanted to have a slightly easier travel-y kind of project, so I wound up a skein of handspun. This is originally from a Funky Carolina roving called Emo Princess. It's 80% merino and 20% bamboo. I was gonna say silk. 20% bamboo. And I spun this up into a light fingering weight. It's a 2-ply. And I will put the link to this pattern below, but it's called Herald. And I have just started it, so it's not really much to look at. But it is an asymmetrical shawl that is knit with, obviously, fingering weight yarn. It's just garter stitched and knit 2 together yarn overs, done in an 8-row repeat, called Herald from Woolenberry. That's her design company name, Woolenberry. Janine Kalilo, I think is her given name. Anyway, super simple pattern. You kind of don't even need a pattern for it, but increases along here to make the elongated triangle happen. And it's garter stitched, so it doesn't roll, and it basically looks the same on both sides. So I can knit this. It's pretty mindless, but that's great for travel. And since I've got travel on the plane coming up, I thought, well, perfect. I'll just take that. And it's a little bit smaller than the other garment I'm working on, so hopefully a little bit more manageable. So that is what I'm working on for knitting right now. Let's move on to books. I am still reading the book Prairie Fires, which is the historical nonfiction book about Laura Ingalls Wilder and the writing of her Little House series. I am still reading this because A, I didn't realize 672 pages was going to take me quite that long. And B, part of the reason that it's taking me this long is I'm having to kind of dole it out. I'm very interested in the subject matter, and I thought this book would be much more engaging than it is. It needed an editor or something fierce. There's a lot of history that goes into this book that doesn't have anything to do with the Ingalls family or the Wilder family, which is great in terms of you understanding things like why Pa had to walk east to find work, and why he wore his boots out walking. So it talks about the Depression of the 1880s. It talks about the sod busters and the settling of the prairies and the denudification of prairie land and prairie grasses, which would eventually lead to the big Dust Bowl that we kind of think more about in the 1930s during the Great Depression. The book is also talking a lot about Rose Wilder Lane, Laura Ann Almanzo's daughter, who was a writer in her own right and who helped her mother become a writer and helped her edit a lot of her drafts. I'm going to talk more about this whole book once I get it finished. I'm still hopeful that that might be next time I talk to you. Let's just say I'm having a little bit of trouble with this book for a variety of reasons. So I will come back to that once I have it finished to give you a more complete look. I'm at the 60% mark on that one. A book I did finish because I needed I needed what I thought was going to be a little palate cleanser of something relatively light, relatively short, relatively fun, is a book called Salt for Air, and the author is M.C. Frank. As always, I will link to Goodreads pages below for all of the books I talk about. This book was billed as a retelling of the Little Mermaid story set in the context of the ancient Greek legends of Poseidon and the sirens of the sea. And it is a book that I think, even though this isn't exactly clear on Amazon, that I think was all self-published by the author. I don't think that this book was picked up by another publishing company, publishing house. So I had a lot of issues with this book. I don't think there's anything wrong with self-publishing, but you have to do it right. And you need to have someone who maybe isn't just a good friend read it, like someone who's an actual editor. On the surface, that is the story. It's set contemporarily in Greece. The young woman, teenager, who is the center point of the story is a misfit at school. Her father has recently died. Her mother has abandoned the family when she was like 8, and she's now 17. She does not have a good life. She writes fan fiction, which is centered around a lot of stories about the sea. And the main character is kind of an emo hero, Japanese stylized character who is sort of a merman. Into this story comes an actual merman who we come to find out is a prince in exile, and there are a few other characters from his world who appear in our heroine's world. So my issues with this book, first off, and this is a big one for me, you need to hit F7 in your Word document. Spell check it and make sure that you have the correct word used for the context of your sentence. B-E-A-R and B-A-R-E are two different words. Crumbled with a B and crumpled with a P are two different words. They do not mean the same thing. There were several occasions of that throughout the book, and it annoyed me enough that I found myself kind of like mentally jarring, waiting for the next one to come. That really bothered me. Next up, there were sections in the book where the plot got so convoluted between what was happening in the actual story and what were things being described to the heroine by the merman that I literally had to stop, and I had to go back and reread like 2 or 3 pages several times to be able to sort out what went where. That annoyed me. There were just these odd jumps in the plot that to me didn't make sense. It seemed like the author had written herself kind of into a corner and then had to figure out how to fix it, and so came up with some bizarre plot twist that to me didn't make any sense. And finally, I understand that a lot of young adult books are, by their very nature, ones that usually deal with a teenager who is having a life struggle of some kind, and they have to figure out how to overcome odds and persevere in the end. However, this does not mean that you need to give every single bad thing that would ever happen in the world to your main character. Being bullied at school and having your head thrust into the toilet and tortured is plenty bad. Having your mom abandon you, plenty bad. Having your dad die of cancer and you're his sole caregiver, and then you have to move in with next door neighbors because you're underage, that's bad. Those are all bad things. For those of you who this book description is really piquing your interest and you're going to go read it, I'm not going to tell you the spoiler except to say that there is another absolutely horrific thing that happens to this person 3/4 of the way through the book. So I am not recommending this book at all. I think that pretty much sums it up. I read the 273 pages that it was. I finished it to fulfill a School of Magical Stitches prompt. I would not spend $3 on it. I would not spend any dollars on it. But hey, I read it and I'm reporting to you here. These are the kinds of things that I do for you guys here on my podcast, is read bad books and tell you about them. Okay. I am listening to Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix for School of Magical Stitches. I'm listening to the audiobook of that, and I probably will have that done the first week of August or thereabouts. The next book I read was kind of a surprise sleeper. It's called The Art of Inheriting Secrets. Barbara O'Neill is the author. I knew nothing about her or this book. I picked it because the cover is more than 30% pink for another Magical Stitches reading prompt. This is kind of formulaic in the sense that the basic story is the main character is she's an American. She finds out that she has inherited an estate in England from her mother, who has recently passed away. She was unaware that her mother was a countess and that there was this family property. Her mother's never spoken of it. So she leaves San Francisco with a somewhat tumultuous relationship, goes to England to kind of see what things are like and work out what she's going to do with the house and the estate, as well as kind of the rest of her life. There is a love interest in it. There is a mystery surrounding not only why her mother didn't mention the fact that she was a countess, but also with the house itself. And in the end, things all kind of work out, and she winds up staying and starting a new life. So that sounds like a lot of books that are out there. I didn't dislike this book, though. I would call it more like a B- book. It isn't something that I am going to seek out every other thing this author wrote because I loved it so much. But for what it was good. The characters were well written. I liked the fact that she adds some non-traditional, non-typical details into the story of her family and the story of the estate. And I like that she ties in, the main character is a food editor, and so she ties in a lot of beautiful descriptions about food. I don't know if the author is a chef or was a chef or just is a foodie, but those were really nice little bits and bobs to kind of advance the character and also help tell the story of one of the people in the village who befriends the main character. So good but not great. If you like those types of stories, you'll probably like this one. Kind of PG-13. It's not something I think I would want my 12-year-old to read, but it's not, all of the sort of romance scenes are not super graphic. They're just a little bit more in-depth than a chaste hand-holding kiss kind of thing. So you're forewarned if that's not your deal either. Up next, I just am going to try to kind of get through Prairie Fires. We'll see how that goes. I may have to supplement something a little lighter in, but I am trying to get through that. So we'll find out what else I pick next time I talk to you guys. So now we're going to move on to cross stitch. Okay, first off, I realized that even though I had it back from the framer weeks ago, I have not shown you guys Stargazer fully framed. So let me do that first, and I think I'm gonna have to stand up. I don't think I can get all of her in here. So there she is back from the framers. I love the job they did. Sorry for the glare. Like I said, it's really sunny here. There is the frame. It's more silvery than gold, but I love how it came with the mats. Yeah, have it up on the wall already, love it. Yeah, super, super happy with it. So there she is, all done. I had that done at our local frame store. It has the museum type glass in it that has a little UV protection in it. So I think they did a great job. It came out really nicely. Okay, so let's talk what I've been working on. First up, the Tour de France Challenge in Full Coverage Fanatics is ending Sunday, the 28th, which is the last day that the riders ride. So that's the last day of our tour. We've had several people finish already. I myself have actually finished up. I have been working on a stitching shelf, artwork by Amy Stewart and charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. So the challenge, I decided to go for the yellow jersey. That was basically stitch every day the riders ride, no matter whether it's mountain or sprint stages. I believe the total for that, for the yellow jersey, was like 3,146 stitches or something in that neighborhood. And I worked on page 5, which is this page right here. And so basically from there over is what I got done for the tour. It looks a little odd because I also did some homework stitches on this. So one of the homework prompts for Magical Stitches last week was to stitch stitches in pink. So I came down and I wound up doing a bunch of stitches up here and in here cross country, which I don't normally do. And then I've been slowly filling in around that, which is why like this lady's head is missing. It's missing that section right there because it was all dark colors. So I have that little bit and coming across here that I've already started, and then these blocks right here to finish the page. So the tour is over for me. I'm taking a little bit of a break from this. We'll definitely pull this out next month in August to work on some more. And really happy with how it's coming along, just chipping away at those bazillion pages. Love how it looks though. Yeah, it's just, this was super confetti heavy, but it's amazing the way the windows come out in that. I love it. Stitched on 25 count, easy guide, pre-gridded fabric. So that's where that one is living. Next up, I worked on, get this one out for you guys. Another homework prompt. This is the Dimensions Gold Collection Petites Christmas Morning Pets. My Lizzie, my Emma. Pretty much that is them, that's their personality. It's the whole thing. So I worked on this as well. This is being done on the 18 count Aida that came with the kit and the floss that came with the kit. I don't remember what the prompt was exactly. Maybe something for Christmas. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, I came in here and I worked on this part of the puppy's head, and I added some stitches up here that's kind of its rear end sitting in the hat. And I think I filled in a little bit more gray down there too. So no big plans or, you know, timeline on this. Just whenever I get it done, I get it done. But it's a good mini quick pickup project. I may take it as a travel project with me when I go to Chicago next week. We will see. Okie doke. Next, I worked on the Celtic Wheel, which is a Joan Elliott pattern found in this book of hers. I haven't seen it on her website, so I'm not sure it's available anywhere other than this book. I mean, you could always ask her in her group, but this is what it will look like when it's done. And I am very pleased to say that I got the first page done. So this is now just a little bit more than 25% finished. I am stitching it on a 32 count even weave from Color and Cotton called Sampler Gold. So other than these like 6 ninja stitches down here, this whole quadrant is finished. And I have started in on page 2. The page break is basically right down the middle. I had a moment of panic because when I went to start this second page and finish out this main braid here in the center, it felt, based on the chart, my working chart copy, I was off. Like the whole thing was off a stitch. I had added a stitch in. But when I looked at the photos in the book, you could see that this is how, like, this looked right. All this center stuff looked right. So I went back and forth, and I was just dreading the thought I was going to have to potentially rip everything from here over. And then looked at the actual chart page and realized that my working copy, the copy had dropped the center column. I don't know how it did it perfectly, but it was missing that center column the whole way down. So this is actually correct. This is where it's supposed to be. So this is halfway down the pattern. This is the midpoint, and then this is the midpoint. So next time I pick this up, I will continue on this way. I'm going to try to get the top 2 pages finished, but everything is done here, including the back stitching in this kind of butterfly shaped section. And I just love how this comes out, is coming out. I think the colors are beautiful. Just everything pops on this. I think it looks amazing. I'm really excited to work on it when I work on it. So I used it for several homework projects, and it'll probably come back out again later for yet more homework if I can swing it. Okay, next up I worked on A Long Winter's Nap. This is the ornament, also charted by Heaven and Earth Design, artwork by Donna Gelsinger. Also being stitched on the 25 count, 25 count easy guide, even weave words. This is in the center of it. This is Santa's beard and his gut and his arm. And I am working on finishing this page. That's one of my goals for this year, is to get that page finished. So I've got 2 more extra credit projects that I want to use it for Magical Stitches. I've already used it for one, which is for the Christmas themed, I think that's the one I'm using, Christmas themed piece, because obviously it's got Santa in it. Gonna try to see if I can get that finished up at some point in the near future. Love how it's coming out. I think it just looks amazing. So really fun to work on that one. Totally different than a stitching shelf. The confetti's just different. There's not that much of it, and it's only in certain locations, and there's blocks where there's like only 5 colors in them. I mean, it's like a walk in the park, comparatively speaking. So yeah, yay. The last thing I'm going to show you guys, didn't bring, well, we're going to assume you kind of know what this looks like. This is my chatelaine, my Desert Mandala chatelaine. I'm working on this week with Leah of Aviatrix Stitcher and Katie over at Terrier Landing. Katie has just started making floss tube videos, so if you haven't checked her out, I'll try to remember to link her below. Let me make a note. Yeah, and go check her out. She does both knitting and cross stitch and cranks along on her projects. So I'm just finished using this for homework, in which we needed to put in 1,000 stitches in either blue or black, and I opted for black. So I brought the border down there and there, and I finished that cactus motif, the black part of it. So I was sort of dreading doing this, but I'm now really glad that I did, because I can work in the little vignette that goes here as well as on the other side, which they're different than this. Each one's different, but they're kind of in that same like black work look to them. So I could just jump in and work on those at any point in time. And I double and triple checked my counting, and I use counting pins, so I think I have everything in the right place. I'm hoping I do anyway. We'll find out. yeah, so actually coming along. I've worked on this. It's got about an extra 2,000 stitches in it, and I didn't think I was going to get to it much this year. So a little bit scary that 2,000 stitches doesn't really bring me that much closer to a finish, but it is, right? Every little bit counts. So I have been working on that this week for my kind of birthday start thing. I started this 2 years ago on my birthday, and my birthday is this weekend. So doing a little birthday chatelaine stitch along. If you have a chatelaine and want to put some stitches into it to kind of play along with us, we would love to have you. Probably not going to get back to that this weekend. It's a treatment weekend for me, and I tend to be really brain foggy, so I don't think counting cross country is the best choice. So I'm going to do something else. I'm actually probably going to work on this. So that brings me to some mail that I wanted to share with you guys really quickly. First off, I got my Color and Cotton hand-dyed fabric of the month club. This is Havana on 28 count linen. All right, there's going to be crinkling because I did not take it out of the bag. That's a pretty good representation. It's just a nice, warm, kind of toasty brown color. Great neutral. I can think of a million things that one could use that for. So another beautiful one from Angela. Then I got a nice little care package from my friend Lisa over at Lisa's Stitching and Such. Came all the way from New Zealand in a week. Today is Wednesday. She mailed it last Tuesday. It was here yesterday. I don't even know how that happened. She had asked if I would be interested in this pattern, Forget Me Not. It's Forget Me Not sampler. It's patterned by Brenda Gervais, which she has stitched, and I had commented on how much I really liked it, how cute I thought it was. So I love these scissors. So she went ahead and sent me the pattern copy, which I love. I will be starting that at some point. Actually would not look out of place on this. And then she also had in her stash, it's a Blackbird Designs pattern called Awake the Dawning Day. It's Loose Feathers, pattern 25. It says, hear the birds on every blooming spray with joyous music to wake the dawning day. Since she knew I liked Blackbird Designs, so she sent me that as well, which will also get started at some point in the not too distant future, you know, when I can start things. Footnote here, we're almost at the end of July for No Starts 2019, and I have not started new stuff, y'all. That's pretty darn good. Finally, she sent me this needle minder. I think you can see it. I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. Just perfect. Because I often am. So there is that. She also sent me this amazing chocolate, which I did not bring because the package may or may not have been opened and some of it consumed. It is a dark chocolate, and then it also has coffee flavor in it, which you could smell the minute that we opened the foil. My husband came home for a week yesterday. He got here. And after dinner, he was like, you are going to open that, aren't you? And I was like, well, I was going to wait till after I film my podcast. And he was like, you are going to open that, aren't you? So we opened that last night and had it as a treat, and it was amazing. It was so good. So good. Okay. Then I got a nice, really wonderful package from Kim, who is Kim Hollenbeck on FlossTube, and you probably know her as Spartan Stitcher on Instagram and Facebook, I think. Kim, are you that on Facebook? Definitely Instagram. She sent me this awesome card. So true. She sent me 2 postcards for Gryffindor. 50 points for Gryffindor. I'm not a Gryffindor in the current Magical Stitches. I was sorted into Slytherin because nobody, I guess, wanted to be in Slytherin. I'm fine to be in Slytherin, but I'm a Gryffindor, which should probably come as no shock to anyone who knows me. But anyway, love these. Yes. She also sent me a little Gryffindor needle minder. You can see the rampant beast on that, the rampant lion. And it says Gryffindor down there at the bottom. She sent me a pattern, which I am not going to show you. It's from Chessie and Me, but it's just the pattern. It doesn't have a photo on it, so I don't want to show you the chart. She sent me some fabric. This is Belfast linen in blue spruce. It's a 32 count, and it's a kind of bluey green. I'm thinking I might do, there's an ink circles mandala that you can do for Christmas, but I can't remember the name of it, of course, but I think all white or just barely off white would look great on that. So I'm gonna do that. And she sent me this awesome project bag, which the day it came, I actually have a dress that has a very similar pattern on it that's turquoise and this color gold and other blues, but it's the same kind of mandala design on it. So really nicely made. The inside is just plain white, but it's like you could wipe it off. It's that like vinyl back, is that what it's called? Something like that. Anyway, so she sent me that as well. So thank you both, Lisa and Kim, for thinking of me and sending me lovely goodies to brighten this past week, which let's just say I am going to be really glad when Mercury goes out of retrograde on the 4th of August, because it's just been nutty, absolutely nutty. All kinds of strange things happening that you just shake your head and you're like, what is that? And you're like, oh, Mercury retrograde. Anyway, I'm just kind of trying to lay low till that's done. All right, you guys, I'm impressed. I thought this was going to be way longer, but I'm happy that it's not, and hopefully you are too. Thank you, as always, for joining me. I greatly appreciate all of you, my viewers. I appreciate all your comments and your likes and your hearts and all of the interaction with you. I am woefully behind on FlossTube. I'm not sure when I'm going to get caught up, but it's probably not going to be until mid-August by the time things settle down here. But know that wherever you are, I am thinking of you, my friends, and hoping that you're having a wonderful July and will have a wonderful start to your August. So I will be back in a couple of weeks to talk to you then, and I hope things continue to be good at your end of the world, wherever that may be. So take care, and I will talk to you all then. Bye for now.